Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Kris. We are doing, this is not a request. I'm just doing a bunch of things that weren't requested because I just wanted something a little different. I'm going to get back to what I was doing. I just wanted different. 5 real scary mysteries solved with CCTV camera footage. This is top 5 unknown, I believe. Which, when I upload this video, there will be a copyright claim, but I'll be allowed to put it out anyways. And if I could profit off it, I can't because of that claim. It's weird.
As recording technology has progressed, crime scene investigators have found more ways to identify culprits in both robberies and more serious crimes. Police are now able to solve many unexplained mysteries with the help of modern surveillance camera footage. In many of these cases, without an actual video recording, there wouldn't be enough evidence to come to any conclusions. Number 5. On August 25, 2014, a 33-year-old man named Rishikesh Parikh broke into a Canara Bank branch in Mumbai, India. Using a raincoat, a helmet, and an umbrella to hide his identity completely, Parikh broke in using 11 duplicate keys and stole the equivalent of around $66,000. While a case was registered at the police station, there was not enough evidence to identify the culprit or make an arrest. There was CCTV footage of the robbery, but it wasn't enough. However, the story doesn't end there. One of the police officials had the idea to comb through the surveillance footage from the months before the robbery, since the robber had likely been to the bank already. Sure enough, there was a video on Sunday, August 3rd, showing 2 men outside the bank. There was also footage of one of the same men standing near the strong room with another man, raising further suspicion. The police theorized that the robber had met with 2 keymakers at the bank to create the duplicates. When they contacted keymakers around the city, they finally got an ID on one of the men who had stood outside the bank on that Sunday, a man who later provided the identity and contact number of Parikh. When Parikh was finally taken into custody by the police, he confessed to stealing the money and named the other people involved who helped make the duplicate keys, as well as a cash officer at the bank who'd helped give Parikh the original keys in return for a large cut of the money. But the CCTV footage also helped solve multiple other unexplained mysteries relating to this one. It turned out Parikh had robbed 5 other banks with the same method of duplicating keys, meaning he had stolen the equivalent of around $18.5 million.
Oh.
This pattern originated in 2006 when he was working at a tea stall and met a bank employee who gave him the idea. He continued to use the same technique for all the robberies. He had even set up a tea stall outside of one of the banks in 2014, allowing him to stay close and familiarize himself with the bank operations. It also allowed him to make connections with the staff by selling them tea at a low price. But all the robberies went unsolved until this one. It's clear that going through months of surveillance footage, Parikh may have been able to commit countless other bank robberies. Number 4. In October,
I gotta say, that's creative to make duplicate keys. A bank, I wonder if that bank person got in trouble too. Sorry, it just makes me look like I'm extremely pale right now. I'm dying, apparently. Because I pee in pools.
of 2008, 43-year-old Jean Thomas was at work when her house in Boynton Beach, Florida was burgled. The thieves stole Thomas's jewelry, valuable coin collection, and video equipment, which even included her son's baby videos. "It's just a total violation," she said. "It's like, how could somebody do this?" But that wasn't the end of the story. Thomas purchased a $250 surveillance system from Logitech, which she set up in her home, despite disagreements from her husband. Thomas had many pets in her home, including dogs and birds, so she didn't use the motion detection feature, but she did allow her home computer to constantly record, which she could view on a live feed from work. One day, the next April, she decided to log on from the office on a whim, sensing something was wrong. The footage showed two men standing in her living room in the process of burgling her house. They had laid out what they planned to steal on her bed: a safe, a flat-screen TV, video games, and a game console. They had no idea they were being recorded, so when she called the police, they were quickly apprehended. In fact, Thomas was able to watch them get arrested on screen. Other footage shows them entering through a doggy door and walking around the house. The men were eventually identified as 20-year-old Curtis Williams and 19-year-old Stephen Morales, who were most likely the original thieves back to steal more. Two other men were also arrested for helping plan the burglaries: Scott George and Jonathan Cruz. So in the end, Thomas's controversial suggestion to install the cameras in her home paid off. Number 3.
Isn't it crazy though that on a whim she just got a feeling and decided to check? What if she didn't check? What if she had checked an hour later? No one was there. Could she go through and like look at what had been recorded? Because I know that with motion detectors on, that would let you know it's being recorded or whatever. It's just crazy, things you just we get hunches sometimes, just a hunch, and you get that gut feeling, and you should really listen to that gut feeling, because I don't know what it is, but that gut feeling is usually pretty on point. Not always 100% accurate, but if I have a weird feeling or nah, I'm not gonna do that. I pass.
Besides China, the United Kingdom has one of the most surveillance cameras per person of any country, with one for every 14 people. There are many detractors who are opposed to what's called excessive use of surveillance, especially in the case of certain facial recognition technology.
You might be against it until you're out on the street and you get robbed and there happen to be some cameras there that picked everything up. Oh, you're thankful then.
But sometimes the use of cameras can uncover and solve truly disturbing mysteries. Such was the case with Sarah Everett, a 33-year-old woman who was arrested and kidnapped while walking home in South London.
Guys, I know you think all those puzzle ads are fake, but today I finally found the game. Ebony, the King's Return.
So I downloaded that game several months
home
ago
in South
to play it. The puzzle things are entertaining, but then it goes on and it's like this board and you're taking over here and then you're building a wall, and I was just like, I don't care, get me back to the puzzles. So I ended up deleting it, but it was fun, kinda.
South London on March 13th, 2021. Her remains were eventually discovered on March 10th in a wooded area near Ashford, Kent. By that point, Metropolitan Police Officer Wayne Couzens had been arrested on suspicion of the kidnapping. He went on to be charged for taking her life, and he was eventually sentenced to life in prison with a whole life order, meaning no possibility of parole. But Couzens would not have been identified, and perhaps Everett would have never been found if not for CCTV footage. In fact, David Wilson, emeritus professor of criminology at Birmingham City University, said that while the technology has its issues, the use of CCTV was particularly well suited to the case, due to its outdoor setting. Detectives went over thousands of hours of footage to assemble the story of what happened to Everett. Helpful footage came from the doorbell cameras that showed Everett walking home. CCTV footage of Everett walking on the South Circular Road ends around 9:30 p.m., signaling the point at which she must have been taken. And Couzens himself appeared on many cameras, including a Tesco that he visited shortly before the abduction, and the various stores and gas stations he visited the next few days for supplies. But the most critical clip came from a camera on a passing bus, which showed Everett standing beside a white rental car with the hazard lights flashing. A different shot showed the license plate, which was traced to Cousins, conclusively linking the two. Without this extensive variety of clips confirming almost every step of Cousins' attack, police may not have been able to solve the scary mystery of Sarah Everard's disappearance. Number 2. In the early morning hours of September 29, 2012, Shauna Tiafe lost her life after a walk home from the night shift as a cocktail server at the Palms Casino Hotel. The man directly responsible was Noel Scott Stevens, an ex-convict and homeless handyman. But CCTV footage was critical in getting a clearer picture of the people involved in this scary mystery. First, video footage from the casino confirmed her clocking out at 3:01 a.m., but the most explosive video evidence had to do with the actual perpetrators. While Stevens carried out the violent crime himself, he claimed that he was hired by Shauna's husband, George Miguel Tiafe. Sure enough, security footage from a local Walmart showed George Tiafe and Noel Stevens together, buying dark clothes and a weapon. Another nearby store also turned up footage from several weeks before, showing the two men buying other supplies like gloves. And according to police, call records showed that Tiafe had spoken to Stevens 87 times on the phone in the month before the tragedy. According to Stevens' testimony in court, Tiafe had promised to pay him $5,000 for carrying out the attack. He had recently learned that his wife Shauna wanted a divorce and was afraid that she would get his money. Tiafe.
Why are people who do this stuff so stupid? Making phone calls, emails, text messages. Why do they think that if you delete it from your phone, gone? No, it's not. It's not. Even when you wipe your computer, it still isn't done. Just
had struggled.
I'm not upset that murderers are stupid. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy
with money in recent years after losing money in the housing market crash, which had made him a jealous and controlling husband, according to Shauna. Her sister suspected Shauna's husband as the culprit immediately. Stevens said that Tiafe masterminded the whole operation, including specific details like breaking into her townhouse 3 weeks beforehand to make it look like a robbery. In fact, Tiafe's attorney later referred to Stevens as a zombie parrot for the way that he kept repeating the name George in every response, blaming Shauna's husband for the plot. In the end, George Tiafe was sentenced to life in prison without parole. But even with Stevens' cooperation and testimony about how he was hired, it's important to remember the crucial role the security footage played. Tiafe was generally well-liked and regarded as a hero in the community, being a firefighter who graduated from West Point and served in the Army Corps of Engineers. One of his fellow firefighters even called him one of the best people I've known on the stand. But when prosecutors played the footage in court of the two men shopping together, it finally exposed the truth of the type of man Tiafe was, ensuring that justice was delivered.
None of that
Number 1.
Him being a good guy and all this stuff, great. He was a good guy before the murder. After the murder, everything you were before is out the window. You're a murderer. You're a terrible human being.
1. CCTV footage played a particularly major role in the case of Hannah Graham, an 18-year-old student at the University of Virginia who went missing in the early morning hours of September 13, 2014. Graham was not found until 6 weeks later on October 24th, when her body was discovered on an abandoned property outside of Charlottesville, where she went to school. But the story of this scary mystery was only brought to light by surveillance footage from around Charlottesville. Graham had been out the previous night at a party with friends, then had gotten lost in the night. Cameras picked her up wandering around Charlottesville's downtown pedestrian mall. At 12:46 a.m., she can be seen walking past McGrady's pub, stumbling. Only 9 minutes later, a gas station camera shows her running, Then at 1:06 a.m., she can be seen passing by a pizza parlor. She continued to send texts to friends mentioning being lost, ending at 1:20 a.m. A disturbing breakthrough happened when investigators noticed that 2 cameras caught Graham with another person, a man that they were able to identify as Jesse Matthew. In the pizza parlor tape, Matthew can be seen passing Graham, noticing her, and then turning around and following her. In the last known video of Graham, she can be seen walking with Matthew with his arm around her waist. He was eventually located on a beach in Texas, 1,300 miles from Graham's last whereabouts. He was eventually charged with abduction with the intent to defile in the matter of Hannah Graham. In court, her mother, Susan Graham, described the experience of watching Matthew on camera. "We saw what evil looks like," she said. "He hunted her." The story gets even more twisted from there. Matthew already had a dark history of violence. He was a hospital worker who had been accused multiple times of physically assaulting different women, but evidence of more crimes came out after his arrest. On September 29th, it came out that forensic evidence taken from Matthew matched evidence taken from a 2009 investigation into the disappearance of a 20-year-old Virginia Tech student named Morgan Dana Harrington. Graham's remains were found only 5 miles from where Harrington's remains had been found. In the end, Matthew received 4 life terms in prison for the kidnapping and deaths of the 2 students. Amazingly, it turns out that these small bits of surveillance footage led to solving not 1, but 2 horrifying unexplained mysteries.
That's when you're glad that there's a lot of security cameras around. I understand people, don't like them. I get it. We're trying to make this a safe place, and if human beings were angels, we wouldn't need any of this stuff. And I mean angels in terms of we were just good people. We wouldn't need those. We would all just help one another, and we wouldn't hurt one another, and we wouldn't need all these things. We wouldn't even need laws, but we do, because we have some terrible people. Let me say that again. We do, because we have some terrible people. I think I said terrible people. Well, I'm going to end this video here, and I'm going to go pee in pools. I'm not going to. It's winter. Like and subscribe, or you're going to choke to death on absolutely nothing. But right now, I'm making you choke to death. Is it working? Just like and subscribe before you die.